Captain Ryan Mitchell stood in the cold metal corridor of his ship, reading the message on his tablet for the third time. The words made his jaw tight and his hands shake with anger. After 15 years, they had found them. The humans who disappeared during the war were still alive, still prisoners, still suffering. The silent vengeance moved through space without making a sound. Ryan had built this ship himself after the war ended. Every bolt, every wire, every weapon was placed with one goal in mind: find the ones who betrayed humanity, make them pay. Ryan walked to the bridge where his crew waited. These men and women had all lost someone during the Proxima defense. They all remembered the day their Zephyrian allies turned their guns on human ships. They all wanted revenge. "What do we have, Emma?" Ryan asked his communications officer. Emma Brooks looked up from her station. She was young, maybe 25, but her eyes looked much older. "The signal came from Kepler 438b. It's a mining planet in Zephyrian space. The message was weak, but I'm sure it came from humans." Ryan nodded. 15 years ago, Emma had been just a child when the war started. But she understood what this meant. Every human who served in the war knew about the lost ones. Thousands of soldiers and civilians who vanished when the Zephyrians switched sides. The bridge doors opened and Alex Torres walked in. The commander of the Phantom Strike team never made noise when he moved. His team was the best at getting in and out of places without being seen. "I've been looking at the planet data," Alex said. "Heavy security, but not impossible. If there are humans down there, we can get them out." Ryan turned to look at the star map on the main screen. Kepler 438b was deep in enemy space. Getting there would be dangerous. Getting back would be harder. But they had to try. The war had ended 15 years ago, but Ryan remembered it like yesterday. He had been a young lieutenant then, serving on a patrol ship near the Proxima system. The humans and Zephyrians had been allies for over 50 years. They fought together against the Grox Empire. They shared technology and resources. Many humans considered the Zephyrians to be friends. Then everything changed in one day. Ryan closed his eyes and saw it again. The massive battle at Proxima Defense, human and Zephyrian ships fighting side by side against Grox invasion forces. The battle was going well until Admiral Morrison sent the retreat signal. The human fleet began to pull back to regroup, trusting their Zephyrian allies to cover them. That was when the Zephyrians opened fire. Ryan's ship had been at the edge of the formation. He watched in horror as Zephyrian cruisers turned their weapons on human vessels. Ships that had been fighting together minutes before were now trying to kill each other. The humans were caught completely off guard. "Captain Mitchell," Emma's voice brought him back to the present. "Admiral Harrison is calling on the secure channel." Ryan straightened up. Admiral Kate Harrison commanded all human military forces. She was smart, tough, and had never forgotten what the Zephyrians did to her people. "Put her through," Ryan said. The main screen changed to show Admiral Harrison's face. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp as always. Behind her, Ryan could see the bridge of her flagship. "Ryan, I assume you got the intelligence report about Kepler 438b, she said. "Yes, Admiral. We're ready to move." "Good. But this is bigger than one rescue mission. I need you to come to Titan Base first. There are things you need to know." Ryan felt his stomach drop. "Admiral, those people have been prisoners for 15 years. Every day we wait is another day they suffer." "I understand. But if you go in without the full picture, you'll get yourself and your crew killed. And you won't save anyone. Trust me, Ryan. Come to Titan Base." The connection ended. Ryan stared at the blank screen for a moment. He trusted Admiral Harrison completely. She had kept humanity together after the betrayal, but the thought of waiting while humans suffered in Zephyrian prisons made him sick. "Set course for Titan Base," he told his pilot. "Maximum speed." The journey to Titan Base took 2 days. During that time, Ryan thought about the war and what came after. The Zephyrian betrayal at Proxima Defense had been devastating. 3 human fleets were destroyed. Over 200,000 soldiers died. Worse, many ships were captured with their crews still alive. After Proxima, the war became much harder for humanity. Without Zephyrian support, human forces had to retreat from many systems. The Grox Empire pressed their advantage, and for a while it looked like humanity might lose completely. But humans are stubborn. They adapted, they learned, they built new ships and developed new tactics. Most importantly, they never forgot who betrayed them. The war ended when the Grox Empire collapsed from internal fighting. The galaxy became peaceful again. Treaties were signed. Borders were established. The Zephyrians kept all the territory they had taken during the war. Humanity was pushed back to the outer rim systems. On the surface, peace returned. But Ryan knew it was a lie. Real peace could not exist while humans remained prisoners in Zephyrian space. Titan Base appeared on the main screen as they approached. The station was huge, built inside one of Saturn's moons. It was the secret headquarters of human military intelligence. Very few people knew it existed. Ryan's ship docked at a hidden bay deep inside the moon. He took a shuttle to the command center where Admiral Harrison waited with several other officers. The room was dark except for the light from multiple screens showing star maps and intelligence reports. "Ryan, meet Colonel Pete Davis, our intelligence chief," Admiral Harrison said. "Pete, this is Captain Mitchell." Colonel Davis was a thin man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He looked like someone who knew many secrets. "Captain, what I'm about to show you is classified at the highest level. Can't leave this room." Ryan nodded. "Understood." Davis touched a control and the main screen lit up with a map of Zephyrian space. Red dots marked various locations throughout their territory. "We estimate there are still over 50,000 humans being held prisoner by the Zephyrians," Davis said. "They're spread across dozens of worlds, mostly mining colonies and industrial planets." Ryan felt his anger growing. 50,000? How is that possible?" "The Zephyrians never reported capturing them," Admiral Harrison explained. "Officially, those people are listed as killed in action. The galaxy thinks they're dead. The Zephyrians are using them as slave labor," Davis continued. "Mining rare metals, building ships, working in factories. They've been doing this for 15 years. Ryan's hands formed fists. "Why haven't we done anything about this?" "Because we couldn't prove it," Admiral Harrison said. "Until now. That message from Kepler 438b was the first direct contact we've had, but our intelligence suggests this is just the beginning." Davis brought up another screen showing ship movements and communication intercepts. "We've been watching Zephyrian space for years. There are patterns that suggest large populations of workers on planets that should be mostly automated." "What are you asking me to do?" Ryan asked. Admiral Harrison stood up and walked to the star map. "Operation Cascade. We're going to systematically destroy the Zephyrian Empire. Not with one big battle, but piece by piece. We'll rescue our people and free everyone else they're oppressing. The official galactic treaties prevent us from direct military action," Davis added. "But they don't prevent rescue missions, humanitarian aid, or defensive responses to attacks." Ryan understood. They were going to make it look like accidents, technical failures, and internal problems. The Zephyrians would know humans were involved, but they wouldn't be able to prove it. "Your mission at Kepler 438b is the first step," Admiral Harrison said. "But it's not just a rescue. You need to gather intelligence, document what you find, and make contact with other human prisoners." "How many ships do I have?" Ryan asked. "4. Now just yours. This has to look small and random. But as we learn more and rescue more people, the operation will grow." Ryan looked at the star map showing all the red dots where humans were imprisoned. 50,000 people who had been forgotten by the galaxy. 50,000 people who thought no one was coming for them. "When do we leave for Kepler 438b?" he asked. "As soon as you're ready," Admiral Harrison said. But remember, this is just the beginning. The Zephyrians betrayed us once. Now they're going to learn what happens when you cross humanity." Ryan smiled for the first time in days. After 15 years of waiting, it was finally time for justice. The mining planet Kepler 438b looked like a scar against the black of space. Ryan Mitchell watched through the bridge windows as his ship approached the dark world. Red lights marked the mining operations scattered across the surface. Somewhere down there, humans had been working as slaves for 15 years. Alex Torres stood beside Ryan, studying the planet through binoculars. "I count 12 major mining sites and at least 40 smaller ones. Security looks standard for a Zephyrian operation." "Standard means they're not expecting trouble," Ryan said. "Good. How many guards?" "Maybe 200 total across the whole planet. Most of them are at the main command center." Ryan nodded. The Zephyrians had grown lazy during the peace. They believed their own propaganda that humanity was weak and broken. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Emma Brooks looked up from her station. "I'm picking up the signal again. Definitely human origin, coming from mining site 7. "That's our target," Alex said. "Small operation, only about 10 guards. But the signal suggests maybe 300 workers." Ryan felt his heart speed up. 300 humans who had been prisoners for 15 years, 300 people who thought they had been forgotten. "Take us down," he ordered. The silent vengeance moved through Kepler 438b's atmosphere like a ghost. Ryan had designed the ship to be invisible to most sensors. The Zephyrians would not know they were there until it was too late. They landed 5 kilometers from mining site 7. Alex Torres and his Phantom Strike team prepared their equipment while Ryan checked the mission plan one more time. "Get in. Document everything. Free the prisoners. Get out. Simple in theory, much harder in practice. Remember, we need proof of what's happening here," Ryan told Alex. "Pictures, video, testimony from the prisoners. The galaxy needs to see what the Zephyrians have been doing." Alex nodded and led his team into the darkness. Ryan watched them disappear into the rocky landscape. Now came the hard part. Waiting. 2 hours later, Alex's voice came through the radio. "We're in position. The situation is worse than we thought." "How bad?" Ryan asked. "The humans are in cages. Actual metal cages, 20 people packed into spaces meant for 5. They work 18 hours a day in the mines. The Zephyrians give them just enough food to stay alive." Ryan felt his anger burning hot in his chest. "Any children?" "Some. Born in captivity. They've never seen Earth or any human world. They don't even know the war ended." That made it worse. Children who had spent their entire lives as slaves, who thought this was normal. Ryan promised himself that every Zephyrian responsible for this would pay. "We're going to hit the guard posts simultaneously," Alex continued. "Should take about 10 minutes to clear them all out." "Do it," Ryan said. Ryan listened to the radio reports as Alex's team moved through the mining site. The Phantom Strike team was the best in human space. They moved like shadows and struck like lightning. The Zephyrian guards never had a chance. All. "Guard posts secure," Alex reported. "Beginning prisoner extraction." "Captain Mitchell," Emma's voice was excited. "You need to hear this." A new voice came through the radio, human, but with an accent Ryan didn't recognize. "Hello? Is someone there? Please tell me this is real. This is Captain Ryan Mitchell of the Human Defense Coalition. Who am I speaking to?" "Lieutenant Emma Brooks, formerly of the cruiser Defiant. We were captured at Proxima Defense 15 years ago. Are you really here to rescue us?" Ryan felt his throat close up. This was a different Emma Brooks than his communications officer. A woman who had been trapped here for 15 years, who had kept hope alive even in the darkest circumstances. "We're here, Lieutenant. We're getting you out." "There are others," the prisoner Emma Brooks said. "Not just here, but on other worlds. The Zephyrians have been moving us around for years. I know where some of the other camps are." This was better than Ryan had hoped. Not only were they rescuing these prisoners, but they were getting intelligence about other locations. The extraction took 6 hours. Alex's team had to disable the electronic locks on the cages and help prisoners who were too weak to walk. Many of the humans had been worked nearly to death. All of them were thin and pale from years underground, but their spirits were not broken. As word spread that rescue had finally come, the prisoners began to organize themselves. They helped the sick and carried those who could not walk. They shared what little food they had saved. Even after 15 years of slavery, they were still human. Ryan met the rescued prisoners as they came aboard his ship. Each face told a story of suffering, but also of endurance. These people had survived things that would have broken weaker beings. Lieutenant Emma Brooks was among the first to board. She was thin and had scars on her hands from mining equipment, but her eyes were bright with intelligence. "Captain, I need to show you something." She led Ryan to a computer terminal and began typing. "I've been keeping records, names, dates, locations, every piece of information I could gather about Zephyrian operations." The screen filled with data, lists of camps, guard rotations, supply schedules, even personal information about Zephyrian officers. Lieutenant Brooks had been preparing for this day for 15 years. "This is incredible," Ryan said. "How did you manage to gather all this?" "The Zephyrians think humans are stupid animals," Brooks replied. "They talk freely around us because they don't think we understand their language. But some of us learned. We listened. We remembered." As the silent vengeance lifted off from Kepler 438b, Ryan looked at the rescued prisoners crowded into his cargo bays. 312 humans who had been given back their freedom. But this was just the beginning. Dr. Nathan Cole, Ryan's ship doctor, was examining the Zephyrian equipment they had captured. "Captain, you need to see this," he called from his laboratory. Ryan found the doctor studying a communication device. "What is it, Nathan?" "I've been analyzing their technology. The Zephyrians built their entire empire on quantum communication. Networks. Every planet, every ship, every facility is connected through these networks. So they have a critical weakness. The quantum frequencies they use are vulnerable to a specific type of electromagnetic disruption. If we could generate the right kind of interference, we could cut off their communications across whole sectors." Ryan smiled. "How hard would it be to build a device that could do that?" "Not hard at all. The technology is actually pretty simple. The Zephyrians just never thought anyone would figure out how to exploit it. This was the break they needed." Ryan immediately contacted Admiral Harrison to report their success and the new intelligence they had gathered. "Outstanding work, Ryan," the Admiral said when she heard the full report. 300 rescued prisoners and intelligence on 50 more camps, plus a way to disrupt their communications. "What are our next targets?" Ryan asked. "I'm sending you the coordinates for 3 more mining operations, but we're also expanding the mission. Captain Luke Anderson will join you with the reconnaissance ship Horizon Walker. We need detailed intelligence on Zephyrian fleet movements and supply lines." Ryan felt excited for the first time since the war ended. They were finally striking back at the beings who had betrayed humanity, and they were just getting started. The rescued prisoners were taken to a secret medical facility where they could recover from their ordeal. But Lieutenant Emma Brooks insisted on staying with Ryan's mission. "I know their operations better than anyone," she argued. "You need me." Ryan agreed. Brooks had proven herself during 15 years of captivity. Her knowledge would be invaluable for future operations. As the silent vengeance prepared for its next mission, Ryan gathered his crew on the bridge. "Everyone did good work at Kepler 438b, but this is just the first step. We're going to hit them again and again until every human prisoner is free." "What about the other species they're oppressing?" Alex Torres asked. "We saw alien prisoners. At the mining site, too." Ryan had been thinking about that. The Zephyrians had not just betrayed humanity. They had built their empire by conquering and enslaving dozens of species. Those beings deserved freedom, too. We'll free them all, Ryan decided. Humans first, because they're our people. But anyone suffering under Zephyrian rule deserves to be liberated. Emma Brooks, the communications officer who had been rescued, spoke up. Captain, there's something else you should know. The Zephyrians have been having problems with their empire lately. Rebellions on some worlds, supply shortages, equipment failures. They're not as strong as they want the galaxy to think. How? Do you know this? Prisoners get moved around a lot. We talk to each other when we can. Word spreads through the camps. The Zephyrians are worried about something, but they're trying to hide it. This was even better news. If the Zephyrian Empire was already having internal problems, then human operations could make those problems much worse. Ryan looked at the star map showing their next targets. 3 more mining planets with human prisoners. After that, Admiral Harrison had identified supply depots, communication relays, and military outposts that could be hit without triggering a full war. Set course for Proxima 7, Ryan ordered. Time to free more of our people. As the Silent Vengeance jumped to hyperspace, Ryan thought about the children they had rescued. Kids who had been born in slavery but would grow up free. That alone made everything worthwhile. The Zephyrians had betrayed humanity at Proxima Defense. Now humanity was going to return the favor. 1 rescue mission, 6 months had passed since the first rescue at Kepler, 438b. Ryan Mitchell stood in the command center at Titan Base, looking at a map that showed their progress. Red dots marked successful operations. Blue dots showed planned targets. The map was getting more blue dots every week. Admiral Harrison walked up beside him. 12 successful rescues. Over 4,000 humans liberated. The Zephyrians are starting to notice. Ryan nodded. Emma's intelligence network has been incredible. Every camp we hit gives us information about 3 more. Lieutenant Emma Brooks, the former prisoner who had become their intelligence specialist, was working at a nearby console. She looked much healthier now after months of good food and medical care. But the scars on her hands reminded everyone of what she had endured. Admiral, I'm intercepting Zephyrian communications, Emma reported. They're calling emergency meetings. Something about equipment failures and security breaches. Ryan smiled. The equipment failures were not accidents. Dr. Nathan Cole had built dozens of electromagnetic disruption devices. Human teams were placing them near Zephyrian communication relays and power stations. When activated, they caused system failures. That looked like technical problems. What else are they saying? Admiral Harrison asked. They suspect human involvement, but they can't prove it. Our operations look like random accidents, pirate attacks, and internal rebellions. They don't see the pattern yet. The pattern was Operation Cascade in action. Every strike weakened the Zephyrian Empire a little more. Every rescue gave them more intelligence. Every equipment failure made the Zephyrians question their own technology. General Rick Parker entered the command center with a datapad in his hand. The ground forces commander had been leading liberation campaigns on planets where other species were fighting Zephyrian rule. Admiral, the Altarian rebels are requesting support, Parker reported. They're planning to take back their homeworld from Zephyrian occupation forces. How many humans are being held there? Admiral Harrison asked. About 800 in the main prison complex. But there are also 12,000 Altarians in forced labor camps. Ryan looked at the star map. Altair 4 was deep in Zephyrian space, heavily defended. But if they could support a successful rebellion there, it would be a major blow to the enemy empire. What kind of support do they need? He asked. Weapons, communication equipment, and someone to coordinate the attack. They have the numbers, but they need organization. Admiral Harrison considered this. Rick, take a team and help them. But remember, this has to look like an internal rebellion, no obvious human involvement. Parker nodded and left to prepare his mission. Ryan watched him go, thinking about how much their operation had grown. What started as one ship rescuing prisoners had become a galaxy-wide campaign against Zephyrian oppression. Captain Luke Anderson entered the command center with a worried expression. His reconnaissance ship Horizon Walker had been mapping Zephyrian fleet movements for months. "Admiral, we have a problem," Luke said. "The Zephyrians are moving 3 battle fleets toward the Outer Rim. They might be planning to attack human space." Admiral Harrison frowned. "Or they might be trying to find our hidden bases. How much do they know about our operations?" "Hard to say, but they're definitely suspicious. I intercepted a communication mentioning ghost strikes and human infiltration." Emma Brooks looked up from her console. "I'm seeing increased security at prisoner camps. They're moving humans to more heavily guarded facilities." This was what Ryan had been afraid of. As their operations expanded, the risk of discovery increased. If the Zephyrians figured out the full scope of Operation Cascade, they might decide to kill all the human prisoners rather than let them be rescued. "We need to accelerate the timeline," Admiral Harrison decided. "Hit as many camps as possible before they can reinforce security." Commander Lisa Wright entered the room carrying a portable computer. The cyber warfare specialist had been working on infiltrating Zephyrian computer networks. "Admiral, I have good news and bad news," Lisa announced. "The good news is that I've successfully penetrated their central communication system. I can plant viruses that will cause massive system failures." "And the bad news?" Ryan asked. "The bad news is that once I activate these viruses, they'll know they're under cyber attack. We'll lose the element of surprise." Admiral Harrison studied the star map for a long moment. "How many camps can we hit simultaneously if we move fast?" Emma Brooks began typing rapidly. "With our current resources, maybe 20 operations at once. But that would require every available ship and team." "Do it," the Admiral decided. "Lisa, prepare your cyber attack, but don't activate it yet. We'll coordinate everything for maximum impact." Ryan felt his pulse quicken. This would be the biggest operation since the war ended. If it succeeded, they would free thousands of prisoners and deal a major blow to Zephyrian morale. If it failed, the war might start again. Over the next week, human forces quietly moved into position around Zephyrian space. Ryan took the Silent Vengeance to a prison planet called Vega 9. Alex Torres and his Phantom Strike team prepared for their most challenging mission yet. Captain Ben Foster arrived at Titan Base with Phoenix Squadron, 12 of the best starfighter pilots in human space. "Admiral, my pilots are ready for combat operations," he reported. "Good. We may need fighter cover if the Zephyrians try to intercept our extraction ships." The day of the coordinated strikes, Ryan found himself staring at Vega 9 from orbit. The Walfi planet held over 2,000 human prisoners in a heavily fortified complex. Unlike the mining camps they had hit before, this was a military prison with serious defenses. "Alex, what do you see down there?" Ryan asked. "Heavy security. Automated, gun turrets, energy barriers, guard towers with overlapping fields of fire. They're not taking any chances. Can you get in?" "We can get in. Getting out with 2,000 prisoners will be harder." Ryan made a decision. "We're not going to sneak in this time. We're going in loud and fast. Ben, are your fighters ready?" "Captain," Foster's voice came through the radio. "Phoenix Squadron is ready to engage. Emma, send the signal to all teams. Operation Thunder begins now." Across Zephyrian space, 20 human teams struck simultaneously. Ryan's attack on Vega 9 was the largest, but every operation was crucial. At the same moment, Lisa Wright activated her cyber viruses, causing massive communication failures throughout the Zephyrian Empire. The attack on Vega 9 began with Ben Foster's fighters bombing the prison's outer defenses. Ryan brought the Silent Vengeance down through the atmosphere, using the ship's weapons to clear a landing zone near the main prison complex. Alex Torres and his team stormed the facility while Ryan's crew provided cover fire. The Zephyrian guards were caught completely off guard. They had grown used to easy duty guarding prisoners who had given up hope of rescue, but these guards had never faced humans who were fighting for their own people. The prison break was violent, but quick. 15 years of anger and frustration exploded as human soldiers tore through the facility. The Zephyrian guards surrendered or ran rather than face the fury of the attackers. Ryan personally led the rescue of the children's section. What he found there made him sick with rage. Human children as young as 5 years old, locked in tiny cells, barely alive from malnutrition. "Get them to the medical bay immediately," he ordered his crew. "Whatever it takes to save them." As the prisoners were loaded onto rescue ships, Emma Brooks monitored Zephyrian communications. "Captain, they're in complete chaos. Half their communication network is down. They can't coordinate a response." Reports came in from other operations. General Parker had successfully supported the Altarian rebellion. 12 other prison camps had been liberated. Supply depots and military bases across Zephyrian space were reporting equipment failures and sabotage, but the biggest success was psychological. For the first time since the betrayal at Proxima Defense, humans had struck back in force. The Zephyrians were learning that their former allies had not forgotten and would not forgive. As the rescue fleet jumped to hyperspace, Ryan looked at the freed prisoners crowded into his cargo bays. Many were crying, unable to believe they were finally free. Others sat in stunned silence, overwhelmed by 15 years of waiting coming to an end. Dr. Nathan Cole was working frantically to treat the sickest prisoners. "Captain, some of these people are in critical condition. Years of abuse and malnutrition have taken a terrible toll." "Do whatever you can, Nathan. These people have suffered enough." The operation was a complete success from a military standpoint. Over 8,000 prisoners liberated, dozens of Zephyrian facilities destroyed or damaged, their communication network in chaos. But the human cost was visible in every scarred face and broken body they had rescued. Back at Titan Base, Admiral Harrison reviewed the results with her senior staff. "Outstanding work, everyone. But this changes everything. The Zephyrians know we're coming for them now." "What's our next move?" Ryan asked. "We expand operations. The success of Thunder has inspired resistance movements across Zephyrian space. Other species are contacting us for support. We're not just rescuing humans anymore. We're leading a galaxy-wide liberation movement." Emma Brooks had been analyzing Intercepted. 2 years after Operation Thunder, the galaxy looked very different. Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Liberation, watching a battle unfold in the Centauri system. What had started as secret rescue missions was now open, warfare across dozens of worlds. The Liberation was 10 times larger than the Silent Vengeance, with weapons and shields that could match any Zephyrian warship. Around it flew hundreds of other vessels from dozens of different species, all united in fighting Zephyrian oppression. "Admiral Mitchell, the enemy fleet is trying to retreat," reported Captain Sophia Chen, his intelligence officer. She was one of many officers who had joined the growing liberation movement. Ryan still felt strange being called Admiral. 2 years ago, he had commanded a single ship. Now he led a fleet of over 300 vessels and coordinated with resistance movements on 50 worlds. "Don't let them escape," Ryan ordered. "Signal Captain Foster to pursue with Phoenix Squadron." On the main screen, Ryan watched Ben Foster's starfighters chase down fleeing Zephyrian ships. The Phoenix Squadron had grown from 12 fighters to over 200, with pilots from many species flying alongside humans. The battle at Centauri Junction was crucial because it controlled hyperspace routes to 6 different systems. If the Liberation Forces could hold it, they would cut off Zephyrian supply lines to their core worlds. Commander Dan Miller's voice came through the radio from the surface of Centauri 4. "Admiral, we've secured the main prison complex. Over 15,000 prisoners liberated, including humans from the original Proxima Defense." Ryan felt his heart race. After all this time, they were still finding survivors from the battle that started everything. "Any of them able to provide intelligence?" "Yes, sir. They've been keeping detailed records of Zephyrian operations for 20 years. The information they have could help us target their remaining strongholds. The liberation movement had grown far beyond what Admiral Harrison had originally planned. What started as Operation Cascade had become the Galactic Liberation Alliance, with humans at its center, but including dozens of other species. Emma Brooks, now a full admiral herself, appeared on Ryan's communication screen. She was commanding liberation operations in the Vega sector where she had once been a prisoner. "Ryan, we just received word from the Altarian fleet. They've successfully taken back their home system. General Parker's training programs worked perfectly. Rick Parker had spent the last 2 years teaching resistance fighters across the galaxy how to organize, plan, and execute military operations. His students were now leading successful rebellions on world after world." "How many systems are we controlling now?" Ryan asked. 47 fully liberated, another 33 with active resistance movements. The Zephyrians are down to less than 60 worlds, and most of those are having internal problems. Ryan looked at the tactical display showing the current battle. The Zephyrian fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind their supply ships and support vessels. This was becoming a pattern. Zephyrian forces were no longer willing to fight to the death for their empire. Dr. Nathan Cole contacted Ryan from the Liberation's medical bay. "Admiral, I need to report something important. The prisoners we just rescued are telling us about a secret Zephyrian research facility. They're apparently working on some kind of biological weapon." "Where?" "A hidden base in the Rigel system. According to the prisoners, the Zephyrians are developing a virus that would target human DNA specifically." Ryan felt cold anger flow through him. The Zephyrians were planning genocide rather than accept defeat. This changed everything. "Get me Admiral Harrison on the secure channel," Ryan ordered. Kate Harrison appeared on the main screen. She was now commanding all liberation forces from a mobile command ship that moved constantly to avoid Zephyrian assassination attempts. "Kate, we have a problem," Ryan said, and explained what they had learned about the biological weapon. Admiral Harrison's face went hard. "If they're willing to commit genocide, then we can't afford to give them time to develop that weapon. We need to accelerate our timeline." "What are you thinking?" "Direct assault on the Zephyrian capital system. End this war before they can deploy their weapon." Ryan felt his stomach drop. The Zephyrian capital was the most heavily defended system in their empire. The liberation forces had been avoiding it, focusing on weaker targets while the empire slowly collapsed. "Kate, we're not ready for that kind of operation. They still have over 100 warships defending their core worlds." "Then we'll have to get ready fast. I'm calling an emergency meeting of all liberation commanders. We end this war in the next 6 months, or we risk losing everything we've fought for." The connection ended, leaving Ryan staring at the tactical display. The battle at Centauri Junction was winding down with complete victory for the liberation forces. But now they faced their greatest challenge yet. Captain Luke Anderson contacted Ryan from his reconnaissance ship. "Admiral, I've been monitoring Zephyrian military communications. They're pulling forces back from the outer systems to defend their capital. How many ships are we talking about?" "At least 200 warships, plus orbital defense platforms and ground-based weapons. It's going to be the biggest space battle since the original war ended." Ryan thought about all the humans who had died at Proxima Defense 20 years ago, all the prisoners who had suffered in Zephyrian camps, all the other species who had been oppressed by the Empire. This battle would decide their fate. Commander Lisa Wright appeared on his communication screen. "Admiral, I have some good news about the cyber warfare situation. I've successfully infiltrated the Zephyrian military command network. When we attack their capital, I can disrupt their coordination systems. How much disruption are we talking about? Complete communication blackout for at least 6 hours. Their ships won't be able to coordinate with each other or with ground defenses. That was the edge they needed. 6 hours of confusion might be enough to break through the Zephyrian defenses and reach the planet's surface." The emergency meeting of Liberation commanders took place on Admiral Harrison's flagship 3 days later. Ryan found himself in a room, with beings from over 30 different species, all united by their hatred of Zephyrian oppression. General Parker presented the military situation. We can assemble nearly 400 ships for the assault. The Altarians are providing their entire fleet. The Vegans are contributing 50 heavy cruisers, and 12 other species are sending significant forces. "What about ground operations?" asked Admiral Harrison. "I've trained over 50,000 Liberation fighters. They're ready for planetary assault operations. But the Zephyrian capital has massive ground defenses and a population of over 2 billion. Captain Sophia Chen stood, up to present intelligence reports. "The good news is that we have detailed information about Zephyrian defenses thanks to the prisoners we've rescued. The bad news is that they've been preparing for this assault for months." Admiral Emma Brooks had been quiet during most of the meeting. Finally, she spoke up. "There's something else we need to consider. What happens after we win? The Zephyrian Empire controls hundreds of systems. We can't occupy them all." "We don't need to occupy them," Admiral Harrison replied. "We help the local populations establish their own governments. The goal isn't to build a human empire. It's to make sure no one can oppress others the way the Zephyrians oppressed us." Ryan listened to the discussion, but his mind was on the battle ahead. 400 ships against 200 didn't sound like good odds when the enemy had home field advantage, but they had one thing the Zephyrians didn't have. They were fighting for freedom, not just for territory. The meeting concluded with a decision to launch the assault in 30 days. That would give them time to position all their forces and coordinate the attack with resistance movements inside Zephyrian space. As Ryan prepared to return to his fleet, Admiral Harrison pulled him aside. "Ryan, I need you to know something. This assault is incredibly dangerous. We might lose half our ships, maybe more. I understand the risks, Kate. Do you? Because if this fails, the Zephyrians will hunt down every human in the galaxy. They'll finish what they started at Proxima, defense." Ryan thought about the children they had rescued from prison camps, kids who were now growing up free on human worlds. "Then we won't fail." The next 30 days passed in a blur of preparation. Ships were repaired and refitted. New weapons were installed. Pilots practiced attack formations. Ground forces rehearsed assault tactics. Ryan spent his time visiting the different species' fleets, making sure everyone understood the battle plan. He was amazed by the dedication he saw. Beings who had never heard of humans 5 years ago were now willing to die alongside them. On the day before the assault, Ryan stood in the Liberation's observation deck, looking at the assembled fleet. Ships from dozens of worlds stretched as far as he could see. It was the largest fleet assembled since the end of the original war. Emma Brooks joined him at the window. "Hard to believe it all started with one rescue mission at a mining planet. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we had never found that first group of prisoners," Ryan said. "The Zephyrians would still be oppressing everyone. Humans would still be rotting in prison camps. The galaxy would still be living under their boot." Ryan nodded. Tomorrow they would either win freedom for billions of beings or die trying. The assault on the Zephyrian capital system began at dawn, ship time. Admiral Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Liberation, watching 400 Liberation ships drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system. Ahead of them lay the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. President Claire Adams' voice came through the fleet communication system. She had been elected leader of the Galactic Liberation Alliance just weeks before the assault. "All ships, this is President Adams. Today we fight not for conquest, but for justice. For every being who died in Zephyrian camps. For every child born in slavery. For freedom itself." Ryan felt the weight of history on his shoulders. This battle would decide the fate of billions. If they won, the galaxy would be free. If they lost, the Zephyrian Empire would survive and eventually rebuild its strength. "Admiral Harrison, are you ready?" Ryan asked over the command channel. Kate Harrison's voice was calm and steady. "All fleets report ready for battle. Lisa Wright confirms the cyber attack is prepared. Ground forces are standing by for planetary assault. Ben, how are your fighters?" Captain Foster commanded over 800 starfighters now, with pilots from 20 different species. "Phoenix Force is ready, Admiral. We'll clear the way for the fleet." Ryan took a deep breath. "All ships, commence attack. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every being the Zephyrians have oppressed." The Liberation Fleet moved toward the inner system in perfect formation. The Zephyrians had positioned their defense force around their capital planet, creating layers of protection that would be difficult to break through. "Enemy fleet detected," reported Captain Sophia Chen. 237 ships, including 15 heavy battleships. "They're not backing down." Ryan had expected this. The Zephyrians were fighting for their survival now. They would use every weapon and tactic available to them. "Lisa, activate the cyber attack," Ryan ordered. Commander Wright's fingers flew over. Her control panel. "Virus deployed. Zephyrian communication networks are going dark across the system." On the tactical display, Ryan watched the enemy fleet formation begin to wobble as ships lost contact with their command structure. Individual captains were trying to coordinate on their own, but the tight discipline of the Zephyrian military was breaking down. "All fighters, attack now while they're confused," Ryan commanded. Ben Foster led Phoenix Force in a massive strike against the Zephyrian fleet's center. 800 fighters swarmed around the enemy battleships like angry insects, hitting weak points and drawing fire away from the main fleet. The first major engagement began when the two fleets closed to weapons range. Ryan watched the main screen as energy beams and missile volleys lit up space between the opposing forces. The Liberation shook under enemy fire, but its shields held. "Return fire," Ryan ordered. "Target their flagship." The Liberation's weapons struck the Zephyrian command ship, causing visible damage to its hull. Around them, hundreds of other ships were engaged in deadly combat. The space between the fleets filled with exploding ships and debris. "Admiral, we're taking heavy casualties," reported Admiral Emma Brooks. "The Altarian fleet has lost 12 ships already." Ryan gritted his teeth. They had known this would be costly. "Order all ships to press the attack. We can't let up now." The battle raged for 3 hours. Slowly, the Liberation forces pushed through the Zephyrian defenses. The cyber attack had given them a crucial advantage in the opening stages, and their numerical superiority was beginning to tell. General Rick Parker's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Mitchell, we're ready for planetary assault. The orbital defenses are weakened enough for us to get through." "Do it, Rick. Get our people down there." Ryan watched as assault ships carrying 50,000 Liberation fighters dove toward the Zephyrian capital planet. Some were shot down by defensive fire, but most made it through to begin the ground campaign. Commander Dan Miller was leading the assault on the main government complex where Zephyrian leaders were hiding. "Admiral, we've breached the outer defenses. Resistance is heavy, but we're advancing." The space battle was winding down as the remaining Zephyrian ships either surrendered or tried to flee the system. Ryan counted the cost on his tactical display. 97 Liberation ships destroyed, with thousands of brave beings dead. But they had broken the back of Zephyrian resistance. "Admiral, I'm receiving a communication from the planet's surface," reported Sophia Chen. "It's the Zephyrian High. Command, they want to discuss surrender terms." Ryan felt a mixture of triumph and exhaustion. After 20 years of waiting, justice was finally within reach. "Put them through." The main screen showed 3 Zephyrian officials in an underground bunker. Ryan recognized the center figure as Supreme Commander Vex, the being who had ordered the betrayal at Proxima Defense. "Admiral Mitchell," Vex said in his translator-filtered voice, "I propose we discuss terms for ending this conflict." The only terms are unconditional surrender, Ryan replied. All human prisoners will be freed immediately. All other enslaved populations will be liberated. Your government will stand trial for war crimes. You cannot destroy an entire civilization for the actions of a few leaders, Vex argued. We're not destroying your civilization, we're ending your empire. There's a difference. General Parker interrupted the conversation. Admiral, we've secured the biological weapons facility. The virus they were developing has been contained and will be destroyed. Ryan felt relief flow through him. The threat of genocide was over. Supreme Commander Vex, you have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. After that, we will take your capital by force. The connection ended. Ryan turned to his command staff. How long to secure the planet? With their fleet destroyed and no orbital support, maybe 6 more hours, General Parker estimated. The Zephyrian ground forces are already surrendering in some areas. Admiral Harrison contacted Ryan from her flagship. Ryan, we're receiving surrender messages from Zephyrian governors across their territory. The Empire is collapsing faster than we expected. What about the biological weapon? Dan Miller's team has the facility secured. Dr. Cole is overseeing the destruction of all samples. The galaxy will never have to worry about that threat. As the hours passed, reports came in from across the former Zephyrian Empire. On world after world, liberation forces were accepting the surrender of local garrisons. The 20-year reign of terror was finally ending. Supreme Commander Vex contacted Ryan again as the sun set over the Zephyrian capital. Admiral, I am prepared to sign a formal surrender. Bring yourself and your senior staff to my ship, Ryan ordered. You will surrender publicly, before representatives of all the species you have oppressed. The ceremony took place in the Liberation's main hangar bay. Representatives from 30 different species watched as the Zephyrian leadership formally surrendered their empire. President Adams accepted the surrender on behalf of the Galactic Liberation Alliance. But Ryan's attention was focused on the group of humans standing near the back of the hangar. These were the last prisoners freed from the capital planet, including some who had been held since the original betrayal 20 years ago. Among them was an elderly man who stepped forward as the ceremony concluded. Admiral Mitchell, I'm Colonel Pete Smith, formerly of the cruiser Defender. I was captured at Proxima Defense. Ryan saluted the old soldier. Colonel, it's an honor to meet you. We never stopped looking for our people. I know, sir. That's what kept us alive all these years. The belief that someone would come for us eventually. After the surrender ceremony, Ryan found himself alone in his quarters for the first time in months. He thought about the long journey from that first rescue mission to this moment of final victory. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Admiral Harrison entered, carrying 2 glasses and a bottle of Earth whiskey. I thought we should toast the end of the war, she said, pouring the drinks. What happens now? Ryan asked. Now comes the hard part, rebuilding, creating new governments. For all these liberated worlds, making sure something like the Zephyrian Empire never rises again. They drank in silence for a while, thinking about the cost of victory. Thousands of liberation fighters had died in the final assault, but billions of beings were now free. Do you think we did the right thing? Ryan asked. Kate Harrison smiled. Ryan, we freed every human prisoner. We liberated dozens of oppressed species. We prevented a genocide. We showed the galaxy that betrayal and oppression will eventually face justice. I'd say we did exactly the right thing. 6 months later, Ryan stood in the courtroom where the Galactic Justice Tribunal was holding war crimes trials. Supreme Commander Vex and his senior staff were facing charges for crimes against multiple species. The evidence was overwhelming. 20 years of documentation provided by freed prisoners, video records of atrocities, testimony from survivors. The Zephyrian leaders had no defense except to claim they were following orders. Emma Brooks, the former prisoner who had become an admiral, testified about her 15 years in captivity. Her calm, detailed account of Zephyrian brutality left the courtroom in silence. The trials concluded with guilty verdicts for all the senior Zephyrian officials. They would spend the rest of their lives in prison, Gu,